Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome in to the NHL Stanley Cup Playoffs live stream here on the Fantasy Pros Twitch channel. And finally, the Stanley Cup Finals start tomorrow. Very excited about that. I am Tyler Conium, joined as always by BettingPros NHL expert Kelly Kirby. Now, the last time we did this on Friday, you were very cool, very calm, very relaxed as an Oilers fan. Now that we're on the eve of Game 1, has that changed, or how are you feeling?
Yeah, it's a little different.
A little more pressure now.
Now it's like, oh, now we have to actually go do something and watch it, and so, yeah, I'm a little more tense, but I think it's just all that space between having such cocky confidence, and not actually seeing them do anything, so I'm
Yeah.
sure as soon as they score tomorrow, then I'll be like, "All right, we're good, we're fine, we're gonna sweep.
It's the
It's
jitters
all."
of the fans too,
It
right? Like you say the
is.
players, once they get a few shifts in there or get a few shots, get a goal even, then they can kind of settle into it. I feel like it's very much the same for fans too, once you get into the rhythm of the game. So thankfully it is finally starting. As a reminder, we are live each and every Tuesday and Friday right here on Twitch through the end of the Stanley Cup Finals. And if you are watching this on YouTube or listening on the audio feed, be sure to follow and subscribe at twitch.tv/fantasypros so you can come hang out, watch it live. If you have a question, if you have a comment, feel free to drop it into the chat there. So last time we talked, which was Friday, we did a breakdown of the series, what we thought sort of all the key matchups were. So before we get into the game one specifics, did just want to recap what our bets were for the series. So I'll let you take the lead on that.
Of course you will, because I'm going way out on a limb on this. I actually told
Our plus
two
there.
I told two guys that they were like, "Oh, it's gonna be a great series." I was like, "Nah, it'll be over in 4 games," and they looked at me like I was just insane. So, but I did place a small little bet on the series being a sweep at plus 600. I don't mind a 5 games either, just because those odds are really good, and I think there's a chance. But again, they're risky. So I also like McDavid to have the most points. At the time I said it was plus 270. I did not check it today, but I imagine it has dropped down just a smidge. But I'm also cool with Kachuk. I mean, you give me plus 1,000 that a Panther might have the most points. I'll take it, and I feel like he gets overlooked in the playoffs and what he did last year.
Yeah, and the way the series went in the West and went in the East, a sweep is never completely out of the realm of possibility. Is it likely? No, but at plus 600, could it happen one out of every 5 or 6 times, which is how we always talk about plus money. Doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to happen this time, but over the course of time, making these bets will eventually pay off. I'm a little bit more simplistic. I do have a big one up there too, but I like the Oilers to win the cup. It was minus 110. I also haven't checked the updated odds, but I'm assuming that based on game one, it might have shifted a little bit, maybe 115 minus 120. Still fine with that. Then I like the Oilers to win tomorrow night, game one, and win the cup. That's a parlay, pre-made parlay. You can get at a lot of books, FanDuel, DraftKings, of that nature. And then Sam Bennett, who is got the most goals in the Stanley Cup playoffs. He's plus 1,100. So that's something that could cash without the Panthers even winning the series, theoretically. If he's the only player that scores for the Panthers, I will take that. So those are our favorite bets overall for the series as we get into it. So even though it's been 5 days of really not a lot, at the same time, it hasn't been nothing. So I think the biggest question that I wanted to ask you about, Connor McDavid threw a little wrinkle into all these plans over the weekend when he left practice after about 5 minutes. He was seen talking with the trainer. Oilers have come out and said there's absolutely no concern with him missing game one. It's all precautionary. But does that concern you at all?
I mean, yeah. Like, I think we can all agree there's no way they win this if McDavid goes down for any amount of time. I guess, there's always a small chance, but I would like to think I really am hoping this is some of that hockey gamesmanship that you always like to talk about, where teams will just lie straight up or just not say anything for a while. So maybe he's just trying to be sneaky, but I sincerely, like, yeah, he is the one that cannot go, or else all of a sudden the series looks entirely different.
Yeah, and that's kind of the thought I had too. Is this maybe a little sort of sneaky? Like he doesn't need to practice. We saw, throughout the playoffs, a lot of the star players, Austin Matt, a lot of these guys aren't practicing just because why risk anything? So is it maybe a little bit of gamesmanship of let's just throw a little bit of seed of doubt in their mind? But then you're right. If it is something, maybe it's a tweak, whether it's an ankle or a groin or who knows, that the way he skates, the way he plays, if
Mhm.
that could turn into something, then all of a sudden you flip this entire series upside down. He's the favorite for the Conn Smythe. The Oilers are the favorite to, win the cup, win game one. All of a sudden it brings all these other things into play. Obviously it's very important to see how he comes out in game one, but ahead of that, are you looking to change make any bets to hedge, or are you still just, let's see what happens here with McDavid in game one?
Yeah, I mean, I already, I did the hedge for the Panthers when they were plus 125 to win the cup, just because I have the Oilers at such significant plus money that I'm going to come out ahead either way. If he goes down, I mean, you're going to change your player props pretty significantly. I would start undering a lot of things. I would under goals. I would, but as long as he's healthy, then I'm back to looking at more overs than not. So it's just I mean, and I think in a lot of series there's always that one guy. Unfortunately, Florida doesn't really have the one guy. They could lose one or two and probably be okay, but like, I mean, we have McDavid and Draisaitl. If either one goes down, I don't see, but for sure Connor. So
It's in big trouble for sure. And
yeah.
that's something I just wanted to ask. When you're looking at a series like this, obviously the lines are going to be pretty sharp. It's the only game in town. Are there any key props that you look to in a series like this? Like whether it's saves, whether it's shots, is there anything you try to hone in on when maybe end up getting a 5.5 or a 6 line that's so razor thin?
Yeah, I mean, I like goalies, and then again, I think we'll kind of know after game one where this is sitting. Like right now, I'm on the over, but if it gets tight, I mean, then you start looking at under shots on goal. You start looking at unders points. I hate doing under points, but like if you're looking at 2-1, 3-1 games, it's like that's just the safer way to go about it. So the first game, I'm still kind of I'm on the overs, but I also like the goalie unders, or I like Skinner under. So it's just it's touchy, but you have to see how the whole thing rolls, I think.
Yeah, and I think it's an important way to look at it, because one thing I always say is if betting was just pick who wins, then we'd all be rich, right? Because a lot of times you can pick who's going to win a basketball game, a hockey game, but when the odds come into play, that
Mhm.
needs to mathematically influence the way you bet. Because if you're betting minus 250s every time, you're not going to be profitable. So
Right.
as things shift, as things change, maybe you're not looking at sides, maybe you're not looking at totals, you're keying in on some more props like that. The other thing I wanted to ask you when it comes to a series like this, obviously there's a lot of star power here. Do you tend to look to the stars in a series like this, guys like McDavid, Draisaitl, or do you tend to shy away? Like I always think in baseball, particularly when you say Aaron Judge, for example, you get into a playoff series, he doesn't have the greatest playoff history, but
Mhm.
the odds will kind of like push you to want to be betting these overs or something like that. So do you
Mhm.
tend to shy away from the big name players in series like this, or is that where you try to key in on a little bit more?
Yeah, I tend to key in a little bit, but I like to do, like, a little bit more combos. Like, I'll take a 1 point even at, like, significant odds, and I'll combine them with something else that has kinda significant odds. Um, just because, yeah, they are begging you to go over on McDavid and Draisaitl, and they're gonna make those lines not all that friendly. But it's also hard to see, like, this is where we go back to the Nugent Hopkins, this is where we go back to the Brad Marchands, like, you start looking deeper, then, yeah, like, if one of the lines on either team pops up, like the 3rd line for Florida did in the 1st series, it was like, okay, then that's who you're looking at going forward.
Yeah, I think it's an important way to look at it because, again, the average, people probably not like us that aren't betting on every single game and every single thing. They're just opening up their sportsbook app and they're going, "I
Mhm,
want what are the props on Connor McDavid? What are the props on Draisaitl and Chuck?" And that's what they're hammering. So I think it does open up some opportunity to maybe find those lesser known players, someone like Nugent Hopkins that. How many times we bet on him in these playoffs and
mhm,
made profit? So
mhm.
definitely different ways to approach that. Before we get into game one specifically, and I want to ask you what you think about the total there, I did want to quickly tell you about an offer on FanDuel. So if you want to boost your bets for game one of the Stanley Cup Finals tomorrow night, new FanDuel customers can bet $5 and win $250 in bonus bets if that first bet hits. All you need to do is head over to bettingpros.com/FanDuel to get started. That's bettingpros.com/FanDuel. Make your plays on FanDuel today. Place your bet on the Oilers or the Panthers, $5, and try to turn that into 250 for the rest of the playoffs. So now, as we get into game one, the meat and potatoes of it, initially, we can look at the line and Oilers are favored by minus 130. So they're the
Mhm.
pretty heavy favorite going into game one. Panthers are plus 115. The line has not moved very much. So the only tick that's moved is the Panthers went from plus 110 to plus 115. Oilers have stayed pretty steady at minus 130, and the total hasn't moved much either. It's 6.5, 6 at some books, but for the sake of conversation, we're going to say 6.5 at plus money, plus 110, and then it's juiced to the under 6.5 minus 125. So conference finals was the tale of two series. We hammered the overs for the Oilers and the Stars. We hammered the unders for the Panthers and the Canes. How do you think, particularly in game one? Do we think over? Do we think under?
Well, yeah, I'm looking at the odds on BettingPros right now, and Sugar House has over 6 at plus 104, which I would hit
Wow.
every second of every day. I don't mind an over 6.5. And again, we talked about this, but like it's in Edmonton, and in Edmonton, I feel like the Oilers in Edmonton they just go. And I think that maybe, like you said, we talked about the miles on Florida. Like they have been playing a lot of hockey in the last couple of years. Bobrovsky, might come out a little bit like, I'm not really sure. Here's this cocky, confident Oilers team. So I like the over 6.5, but I'm very willing to adjust quickly to that.
Yeah, and I've got to go get that number too, because one of my favorite bets is over 6, because I always take the round number when I can if it's not too juicy. I got minus 118, which I thought was great for a 6, but if you can get plus money on a 6, I really like that. And I'm in the same boat. I think people that aren't maybe Edmonton fans or necessarily see a lot of their games, their home ice advantage is no joke. This is not your average home ice advantage. This crowd is loud. Tickets are affordable, so you've got the hardcore. I mean, finals tickets are going to be expensive, but
Right.
relatively speaking, you've got your hardcore fan base in there. It's going to be loud. And we touched on it a lot in the preview of this different attitude of this Oilers team, from touching the trophy to just the way they've been going about this, that I feel like they come out and they just immediately pedal to the metal, try to get an early. I really like a goal in the first 10 minutes in this game. I don't feel like you're going to get this, touchy feely, how we doing, feeling each other out, because they just played it last year in the Stanley Cup Finals as well. It was almost, there's this thing of Tkachuk that's come out where in the handshake line last year, he said, we'll see you next year. And that both teams just figured they were sort of destined to do this. I don't think you're going to get a lot of feeling out here. So I really like the idea of this being a pretty quick, high scoring, paced affair. I think Edmonton's really going to try to dictate the tempo of this game. But what do you think of the minus 130 there on the Oilers?
I mean, I think that makes sense, honestly, for game one, for people who are betting it, because it's like you said, it started at like minus 120 or something. I mean, it was going to kind of go that way specifically because it's in Edmonton. I don't necessarily believe wholeheartedly like minus 130 is a great number. I wouldn't go any lower. It gets to minus 141, minus 150, then there's nothing. I wouldn't touch it. But minus 130, you can sort of justify it at that point.
And I did take the minus 130, sort of. So again, BetMGM always has a 20% boost. So I took the minus 130. It did bring it down to about minus 105. I am so sort of all eggs in the basket with the Edmonton Oilers in this series and in this game particularly, that I'd be willing to pay the minus 130. So I put it on there as well. But if you did want to get a little bit creative, I think that Oilers in regulation is like plus 115. I think I don't see game one going to overtime. I don't think we're going to get that type of game. What do you think about a regulation bet there?
Yeah, I love your regulation bet. I saw that in there. I think that's definitely that's a great bet. So if you want to stay off the minus 130, yeah, I don't see it going overtime either. I think that I think one of the more likely outcomes would be that they build that lead and then kind of just sit on it.
Yeah.
And I don't. But it's Skinner. He could let in 4 goals in the third period. We have no idea. But in general, I think that I think that that's just the way to play it, is a 60-minute.
And I was going to say there might be some potential there if you want to wait and live bet it. If the Panthers get that early lead and the Oilers come down to almost an even money, there's an opportunity to jump on them at that point. So lots of different ways to play game one. Some quick stats for you to get you more educated on this. Obviously, McDavid, Draisaitl, they're leading the way on playoff scoring with 26 and 25 points apiece. Sam Bennett, as I mentioned, leads the charge with 10 goals. That's 3 ahead of Draisaitl. And then when you start looking into in a series like this, you're going to have a lot of X factors, a lot of goaltending. Both teams have started all 3 series in these playoffs on the road. And here we are in the finals. I mentioned the Edmonton home ice advantage, but then you look at the Panthers. They've started every series on the road and they've won all 3 series. Do you think this being a rematch, having been there before, how much of home ice do you think will be a factor, not necessarily for the Oilers, but against the Panthers? Or are they going to be able to sort of block this out?
Well, I mean, I was gonna say something earlier about like how strange the psychology of fandom is, right? When you asked me like how am I feeling, and theory.
Oh, did we get a freeze? We might have got a freeze. Of course it would freeze when talking about Oilers and fandom and home ice advantage. Well, before she gets back, what I wanted to mention is just the stats. Are you back?
Am I back?
You're
yes,
back.
No. Okay.
You're back. Okay.
You
Carry
remember
on.
You remember that day that the thunderstorm started at the exact time? It literally just got going here. So sorry.
The joys of early June.
But that's what I think. What I was saying with the like psychology of fandom and the energy in that building is gonna. I think it will throw the Panthers off a little bit. I think Oiler fans remember last year and remember how flat they came out, and it's just they're just not gonna. It's going to be so insane in there that unless Florida can score, I think they would almost have to score 2 goals in like the first period to get them to shut up. 1 goal is not going to do it.
Yeah.
Because every Oiler fan on earth knows that the other team scores first.
And that's what I like about the Oilers fans is they're not the type of fans that if, say Florida scores in their first 5 minutes, they're not going to quiet down like a lot of other arenas might, like we've seen in Carolina, like we see in Toronto. They're going to be loud unless it's, because they can come back from 3 goals, really not that difficult. They've done it before. So I think that's going to be interesting. One thing I saw on the BettingPros account today, the Corey Perry curse. So Corey Perry, this is now his 5th finals appearance in the last 6 years, but he hasn't won any of them. So Dallas with 2020, they lose. Montreal 2021, they lose. Tampa Bay in 2022, they lose. Edmonton last year, they lose. So the only difference this year is that he's still on the Oilers. It's the same team. He has won a cup before. He won it in his second year with Anaheim. Could something like that be a deciding factor? Or are you on the flip side where it's like, well, they've got Kane and they've got Corey Perry now to try to offset guys like Tkachuk. How much of a factor do you think someone like Corey Perry will be in this series?
Yeah, I enjoy that curse. I mean, I would say like if he'd been there in all of them, that it would be and had never ever won, I would be like, okay, well then get him off the team. But yeah, I think this year the fact that he's back, the fact that they've played together the whole year, the fact they played together all last year, and a little bit and he's a pain in the like which Brandon. So it's if they're gonna
I think that thunderstorm might be hitting again. Did we get we might have got struck again. Well, there we go. We're back. The lightning has passed.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Anyway, I don't.
Stay safe out there.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, is it hitting the house? What are we doing?
But I agree with that there as well. And I think one interesting thing that I saw today is Rogers, who owns at least owns the naming rights out there in Edmonton, Rogers marketing campaign. They've taken ice from 6 different Oilers players' home rinks, including Connor McDavid's home ice in Newmarket, Ontario, blended it up in the ice surface, and then that's all on the ice for game 1. So a little added thing there for home ice advantage. So it's those little things. You're looking for those little edges when you get to the finals that you just never know. Before we get into our best bets for game 1, I did just want to tell you about the NHL prop bet cheat sheet on BettingPros. So if you're betting props, as we mentioned, are you betting the stars? Are you betting the depth pieces? Well, either way, you want to be using the NHL prop bet cheat sheet. It's going to show you the very best value plays for each and every game in the Stanley Cup Finals. You can get daily prop bet value rankings based on projections. You can find the best props for shots on goal, points, saves, and more. Use it now at bettingpros.com/NHL props or on the BettingPros app. So make sure you're on there making all of your game 1 bets. Really excited to see what all these points and these shots on goal props are going to look like. So obviously a little bit of a shorter stream today because we just previewed the whole series on Friday. We don't have a game until tomorrow. So before we get out of here, let's talk about our favorite bets specifically for game 1. Take it away.
All right. So I thought I did hit the over 6.5 just because I liked the extra plus money, and until proven otherwise in Edmonton, I like the scoring. I believe that we're going to get a very heavily focused McDavid, and so I like him on an anytime goal at plus 150. I wouldn't have any trouble betting Draisaitl either. If they get any power plays, this is just gonna these are the types of things that you can cash on those types of moves. And then I went to FanDuel, and you can get Barkov and Kachuk to each get a point, and it goes to plus 106. And with the two of them playing the way that they do, I think that Barkov with the assist, Kachuk with the assist, they're on the ice a ton. There's no reason why I wouldn't want to bet that. And then, I go with the Skinner, the under 24 and a half saves. I want to believe in him so strongly. Like it's all I have. But I don't know, like either the limit Florida and how many shots, or he could get pulled if he gives up a bunch in the first period. So either way, I like the under for him.
Yeah, and I'm definitely jumping on the McDavid anytime goal. I'm going to jump on the Barkov and Kachuk, and it almost sort of covers, like, both could certainly hit, but it does kind of cover your bases. Like if Edmonton goes out and wins this game, chances are McDavid scores, and then vice versa as well. And with both being plus money, I like that. And that's the thing with saves. People have to remember, like, it's saves. It's not save attempts. So
Mhm.
Skinner could face 30 shots and still only make 24 saves, right? So you just
Mhm.
never know there. So I like that one as well. As mentioned, I like the Oilers money line. It's minus 130. Shop around. This line might be very different by puck drop tomorrow. Try to find a boost. I'm sure most books, BetMGM is one, especially if you're in Canada, that is offering a 20% boost that you can jump on. Got the over 6 for minus 118. If I can get out of this and go find that for plus money, I'm going to cash that out and go do that. That's oftentimes the problem with making these bets. 48 hours in advance, you might find a better number. And then I like Bobrovsky to go over on the 24 and a half saves. The Oilers are averaging 32 shots per game throughout the playoffs as well as the regular season. So again, even if they do score, they average 4.14 goals. Even if they get those, I do think they're going to be absolutely peppering Bobrovsky with shots, especially in game one. And I do trust Bobrovsky more than I would trust Skinner. So I think he should at the very least save, more than 80% of them. So my favorite prop there is Bobrovsky to go over 24 and a half saves. So I think that will pretty much wrap it up. We've talked this series to death before game one. Very excited to see the puck finally drop. It feels like it's been forever since we were able to watch a hockey game. So you can find us right back here on Friday at 3 p.m. By that point, there will be, well, I guess game two is probably Friday night.
Yeah, it's
So
Friday night.
that should lead us into a game two preview, and we'll know what's what. So thank you for tuning in today. As always, if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you're following on twitch.tv/fantasypros, where you can watch us live each and every Tuesday and Friday. And you can also let the people know where they can find you across socials.
Yeah, I am on Twitter/X at the Wonky Penguin. I'm on Blue Sky at the Wonky Penguin. And then I'm on bettingpros.com/u/Wonky Penguin, because, you might as well just write it out, right?
That's right. That's your identity now.
That's all I have.
You can find me at Tyler Conium across socials, bettingpros.com/u/Tyler Conium on that. And that's all we've got. So excited to see the puck drop. Enjoy tomorrow night's game one, Oilers versus Panthers, whatever side you're on. Feel free to drop comments on these videos and let us know what your favorite bets are. We will see you on Friday.
Also, if you jinx us, you Maple Leafs fan, by jumping on my bandwagon,
know.
I'm gonna kick you off immediately.
I was thinking that. I'm like, all my eggs are in this Oilers basket, and if the same thing happens to them, that's what happens to the Leafs,
Yeah.
But can it be worse than last year? Go down 3-0, only